Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is in blue and we are learning to calculate the Z value using the Z formula. I've drawn two graphs in pink down the bottom just to demonstrate how this formula works and what it's used for. But before we get into it, let's explore the formula itself. So Z, that's the thing we're trying to calculate. That is equal to X minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. And on the side here, I'm just going to write the mu, that is always equal to the mean, and down the bottom, that is always equal to the standard deviation. To understand what this formula and what the Z value actually means, I've got two graphs down the bottom, and we're just going to make up a scenario. Let's say we're comparing the weight of year 9 boys with year 9 girls. And looking at the graph, they're visually quite different. One's a lot taller and skinnier, and the other's a bit fatter and wider. So year 9 boys, let's say on average they weigh 50 kilos, and on the other side of it, let's say the girls on average weigh slightly more, 53 kilos. The boys, their graph is a lot kind of lower and wider. Let's say they have a standard deviation of 10 kilos, whereas the girls, they've got a standard deviation of 5 kilos. So when we look at the two graphs, it's very challenging. We're trying to compare numbers. It's hard to make a decision because the data looks different and all the numbers are different. And what the Z value does is the Z value, it standardizes our data to allow us to make comparisons. And that idea of allowing us to make comparisons is really important because every data is going to look different. Every data will have a different distribution. It's probably going to have a different mean and it's probably going to have a different standard deviation, which means that comparison is really, really important. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare. We've got, let's say, a year 9 girl who weighs 60 kilos and a year 9 boy who weighs 58 kilos. And we're trying to make a comparison. How is one bigger than the other relative to the mean and the standard deviation of their groups? So let's look at the year 9 boys. We're going to do them up here. So the Z value for the boys, that is going to be equal to X minus mu divided by the standard deviation. And that X value is 58 because that's the weight of the boy we are interested in. That is going to be minus 50 kilos, which is the mean for the year 9 boys, and that's going to be divided by the standard deviation of 10. That becomes 8 over 10, which has a Z value of 0.8. So what that means, I'm just going to change pen color so we can demonstrate. So what that means is the gap between the boy and the mean is 0.8 standard deviations. So what that means is because it's positive, we know they're clearly above the mean, and it means they're 0.8 standard deviations or 8 away from the mean. Let's now have a look at girls to see how the year 9 girl we're trying to compare is. So the Z value for the girls is equal to the same formula, X minus mu divided by standard deviation. X value is 60 because that is the weight of the person we're interested in. We're going to minus the mean of 53, and that's going to be divided by the standard deviation of 5. That is going to be 7 over 5. And when you put that into your calculator, that comes to 1.4. And what that means is the difference between that person's weight and the mean weight of their group is 1.4 standard deviations. So that means they're 1.4 standard deviations away from the mean. And that allows us to make a comparison between the two groups. So based on our year 9 boy and our year 9 girl, the year 9 boy on average is closer to the mean weight of the rest of their group. And that's compared with a year 9 girl who is a bit further away from the mean weight of her group. So hopefully that makes sense. Just looking to summarize, that Z value, it tells you how many standard deviations away from the mean your data point of interest is, and that allows us to make comparisons and decisions of people. All right. Thanks for listening. Let's have a go at some questions now.